Good afternoon, friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. Hope you had a great weekend. Today it is dahlia transplanting day. Well, welcome back to the farm. We had a little bit of rain over the weekend, not much, about 6/100ths of an inch. Not enough to really do anything, but every little bit, right? So it is going to be a warmer week, which is good for the growth out here since everything is very slowed down. What we're focusing on today is planting the dahlias. They are definitely ready to go in the ground. And the bed is ready because we did that last week. So I'm excited to get these guys in. I've got all the tubers out here. I've got all the things that I need. So hopefully this will go smoothly. So let's talk about what we're gonna do. So this is the dahlia bed and it's got 2 rows of irrigation. I'm gonna plant these tubers. I've got a tray here with the stakes that are labeled, which is good. And then I've got another tray down there with stakes labeled. They will go every 12 inches and that's super easy because these emitters are every 6 inches. So I just put a dahlia at each emitter, skip an emitter, put another one. Now I left all of the cuttings at home because they're not quite ready yet. I want them to have a really good root system before I put them in the ground. So right now we're just putting in the tubers and they are well sprouted. They are ready to go. I'm very happy about that. After we plant these guys, then I'm going to put a layer of straw down, garden straw, and that's not for so much for weed suppression because dahlias actually are allelopathic and they really deter weeds very well. In fact, this bed had no weeds in it last year when the dahlias were growing here. But I want to use it for moisture retention because we get so dry in the summer and even with the irrigation, sometimes it's just still too dry. So that straw is going to go down. Yes, it will cool the soil a little bit because it's light colored, but I think we're heading into our warmer temperatures now. I don't think that's going to be a problem for these guys at all. And they've been hardening off on the patio all day and all night for the last like 4 days. So they're even used to the colder nights. Like it got down to 40 last night and they look lovely today. So, okay. So one thing that I would normally do is put bone meal in the hole in each planting hole. Bone meal provides a lot of phosphorus and that's really good for helping these guys develop strong root systems because you're putting them in the ground as tubers and they don't really have a good root system yet. So they're focusing on their top growth, but you really want a good root system, especially if you're in a higher zone like me. I'm in 9B. If you're like zone 6 or higher, you can leave them in the ground perpetually. You don't have to dig them in the fall. And so you want them to have a really good root system in order to thrive. But I am not going to add bone meal because when I did my soil test that came back, not only is our magnesium very high, but so is the phosphorus. So I do not need to add any phosphorus to the soil at all. They have all they're going to need already in here. So we're just going to set up the camera and I'll walk through the first couple and show you how I plant them. Okay, so this process is pretty easy. Let me grab my stakes here. I forgot to grab a stake for Nettie because I thought, so I have this tuber here and I thought all this time that it wasn't going to sprout, but look right there. It's got a tiny little sprout. So it's going to sprout. So I just need to get a stake for it. For now, I'll use this tag. These tags are awesome, but when the plants get big, you can't see them because they're hidden by all the plant growth. So I'll go ahead and put this one right here, and then I'll put Cherish here. Actually, the other way around because this one's shorter for me to dig. And I will just put in a stake for this when it's time. Okay, so there's an emitter right here. I'm going to dig down. Oh, see, the soil is so hard. All right, so we're digging down. I'm going to pop this guy out of its container. I'm leaving the root ball on because it's nice and moist. Just gonna sit her right down in there, cover it up. Now, normally I would bury this a little bit deeper, but it's pretty shallow right here to the netting, so it'll be fine for this year. but we'll add more soil over time. All right, that one's done. Same thing right here. There's an emitter here. I'm gonna dig down. And like I said, you could put, if your soil test says that you need phosphorus, you could put phosphorus in the soil now, mix it in with the soil, and then I'm gonna put the whole thing in and bury it. You could take the tuber out completely, shake off all the soil and plant it, but I want to keep that because it's nice and moist, and that will help it get settled in. Plus then I'm not disturbing any roots that are already there. So that's it, super easy. I'm just gonna work my way down this row. Now there is a possibility, so this is gopher protected, but there's a possibility that rats will start coming out to eat the foliage. So tomorrow, when I come back here to do more transplanting, I wanna really check everything. If that is the case, then I will have to erect a fence around this of hardware cloth as well. Last year I thought it was rabbits. I was wrong. It was not rabbits. It was gophers and rats. So I want to make sure that they don't eat all this top foliage off, because then the plant will be put further behind. These guys hopefully will be blooming for me by the end of June into July. So we'll see, as long as nothing predates upon them. All right, I'm going to get this row planted, and then we'll see what else is on tap. Well, dahlias are in, except for the cuttings. Those will go in the rest of the bed. And if there's still a little bit of space, that's okay. That just means I can add more next year. I am gonna run the irrigation before I leave today, because even though they went in with wet root balls, some of them are starting to droop a little bit because the soil is pretty dry. So the other thing I did 2 days ago, I had to order all the tulips for next year. So I did that. And while I was at it, I noticed that Farmer Bailey was having a sale on selected perennials. And so I got, and it was low numbers, not like 200 or whatever. So I ended up getting, and they're coming, I think tomorrow, 18 hellebores, which is awesome. And because I can cut on those, and then 18 alstroemeria, which not my favorite flower, but you know what? It's a great filler. And a lot of times when I need a filler, it's there. So those are perennials. I think I'm going to plant them back at the house, maybe, if I can find a place, just because that's a good place for perennials since we're renting here. But the other option is I can put them in this raised bed over here that we finished the other day. It is nice protected space. I just have to think about that a little bit. There is another option. Once I weed this bed completely, add gypsum and a lot more compost, I could just use that as the alstroemeria bed because they could be there until we leave this property and I can dig them up easily. So that I might do because it's a small bed, it's kind of out of the way, and I think that might make the most sense. It's lunchtime. I'm gonna head home and get something to eat. Tomorrow we'll come back out here and we're going to be transplanting the celosia and the sunflowers. And I'm looking forward to that. They're gonna go in these upper beds that we've finished, and those will start getting all planted out. And then when the new plugs come at the end of May, in addition to the mums, this area back here will be hopefully done by then and will be pretty much planted out. So I'm excited. Well, it's the next day. I had to build bouquets yesterday, and then we were supposed to go out to dinner with my brother-in-law last night for his birthday, but I ended up getting a really bad migraine, lost my vision first, which is kind of a blessing when that happens because then I can take medication before the headache hits. Still got a pretty bad headache. Probably would have been worse without prescription medication. So basically, I was in bed for the evening, and it finally went away around 4 a.m. this morning. So I'm out here again today, hoping that doesn't come back. I've been out here for a while, still trying to figure out why there's so little pressure in the irrigation. It may just be, I felt like last year there was a lot more pressure. I can change the pressure regulators that are up at the hose bib, but I can't take them off. Gosh, I don't know, because that might blow off the hose itself. So I don't know. I think what I'm going to have to do is set up a few more zones, which is really a pain, but I think that's the only way I'm going to get pressure that I need to get these crops watered. So I'm hoping that this weekend Mike can come out with me and walk the line, and we can look for any holes that might be up the way, and we can patch those, but then also, come up with a game plan for, it's running, and I've patched the holes down here, but it's just not, like the tubes aren't even getting completely full of water, and they should be highly pressurized so that they can drip well. So yeah, it's a bit stressful. That and my IBC tote is only half full now because I've been doing a lot of hand watering, try to get this gypsum to start to break down so we can get some calcium in the soil and loosen up that super dense soil. Okay, what we're doing today is more transplanting. We have 2 trays right here. This first one is celosia, and it's looking terrible. It just always has. So the reason I've got it out here is that this is the last of my celosia seed. I'm not growing this crop anymore. The first year that I grew it, it did great in my home garden, did amazing. There was a lot of cat facing though. I had some funky things, but for the most part, it did pretty well. Kind of short stems for some of the things that should have been long stems. But since then, every year that I've grown it, it's just not done well. And maybe it's user error, but whatever. At this point, I'm excluding crops that don't work quick and fast for me and grow well. It's just not worth my time or my effort. If I want to master a crop, I can do that in a small scale in my home garden. Like if I want to work on mastering celosia, I'll do that on a small scale. I'm not going to waste a bunch of bed space. But this was kind of the last of the seed. So I am going to plant these out. I have been trimming them, so they've been growing tall, and I keep cutting them back because I've been waiting for a warm time to put them out. So they've been in these pots for quite a while, so I'm hoping that putting them in the soil will help. We'll see, given this soil situation. But I just gave them a drink of fish emulsion and calcium, water-soluble calcium. So hopefully that will help them, get them in the ground. There's not that many of them. And the next thing is our sunflowers. These look a whole lot better. So these are going to go in as well. I also gave them a nice drenching of water-soluble calcium and fish emulsion. And we're going to go ahead and put those in a bed. Now, I'm not going to cover either of these. We are finally trying to climb out of the 40s at night. These have been sitting outside all day and all night, not in the greenhouse. So they're fully adapted. But they won't really start taking off in growth until we really hit those warm temperatures. The feverfew is finally starting to put on growth. I normally don't get it until June, so I'm trying to be patient, but last year at this time, it was a whole lot bigger than this. So hopefully it will still come up. The good thing is they're all here, whereas last year I had lost, I think I planted 70 plants and I lost all but 6 to gophers. So basically I just went through and I used my backpack sprayer and I did fish emulsion with a little bit of water-soluble calcium on the whole field. And back a month or so ago, 2 months ago maybe, when I got robbed here, just before I started locking everything up, I knew they'd gone into the shed because the shed door was open, but nothing was missing. Like all my hand tools were here, all the crappy shovels. I mean, they took all the nice shovels, but you know, all that stuff was here, the broad fork and everything. And I thought, okay, because I was like, well, they definitely took the wheelbarrow and the gorilla cart, and then all my good shovels they took. I was like, well, I guess they didn't see, because like, there's a tape measure, there's a bunch of levels, there's a hori-hori knife, there's a lot of hand tools in there. They didn't take any of those. And so I thought maybe they just peeked in, didn't see anything they want. I found out this morning what they took. My battery-powered backpack sprayer. That's brand new, I've used it once. So I went to grab it this morning, and actually the funny thing is I have 2. I have the original hand pump one, which is right here. And so I had grabbed, you know, I wasn't really thinking, I was listening to music. I grabbed it off the wall and I started filling it and everything. And I was like, you know what? Where does the battery go in here? And I was like, wait a minute. So then I came back in here to find the backpack sprayer because I brought the battery with me. And no, it's not here. That's what they took. So yeah, that makes me all angry all over again. I had pretty much let all that go. Oh, well, it is what it is. That was a pretty big loss, but you know, that's what I get for not locking up the shed when I should have. So, okay. I'm ready to transplant these guys. I'm gonna get them out there. It is bright and sunny. I'm gonna try to film what I can, but as you know, this camera likes to cut off in the sun. So I'm gonna first try to rig up some shade for it so it can actually record. All right, let me get started.
My hair on the open road, my tank is full, in a drinking hand, choosing gratitude is high free.
Okay, sunflowers planted. There are three varieties. There is Velvet Queen, Teddy Bear, are the short ones, and then that's Van Gogh's Fantasy Mix from Sunflower Steve. Celosia planted. And yes, I went in and fixed the leak in there. They'll be fine. It's super, super saturated, so I'm glad it'll dry out a little bit. What I fixed it with is one of these. So I just cut the spot where there was a leak, and then I patched it up with this, part of the tube on this end, part on this end, all patched up. Someone asked on the irrigation video what the T intersections look like, if I could explain those real quick, so I'll show you right here. So there's two varieties. This is one T intersection. It's a compression T. It has, holes on both sides and down here for the irrigation to run. So this helps you branch off a main line to pull a line off of here. Now, this is a compression T, so you have to squeeze the irrigation tubing into these holes. It's really hard to do. Very challenging. You'll work very hard at it. So I prefer to use these. This is the same thing. It's a T intersection. So you have the main line runs across the top here, connected on both ends, and then you have the next line you want to run down here. All you have to do for these, just clamp them. So when they're open like this, you can slide the tubing on, and then you just twist this like that, and then see it clamps down on the tubing and it keeps it from coming off. And so that's how it works on both sides and also here. Now you have to be sure that you get the right size fittings for the right size tubing. So make sure, do you have 1/2 inch tubing? Do you have 5/8 inch tubing? Do you have 1 inch tubing? All of that will dramatically impact how these work. So since I forget sometimes, and I also get them from separate locations if I need to, usually I get everything that I need from Dripworks, which is just the company that I happen to use. If I need mainline tubing, like now, I can go up to my local hardware store and get that. Now the mainline tubing is this stuff here. And most hardware stores will sell it in multiple sizes. So I just tend to use 1/2 inch on pretty much everything. So that's what I stick with. That's my standard. But occasionally I screw up and I'll buy a 5/8 inch and then I don't have a fitting to go with it. Or I have to get an adapter fitting. So sometimes they'll make adapters that have one size on one end and another size on the other end, so that you can do that if you make mistakes like I did. But like I said, if you standardize, then you'll be good to go. Now on my vegetable garden, I don't use drip tape anymore because even though it works great for vegetables, the rats were chewing through the irrigation to get to the water in them because they were really thirsty. This was at the end of the season when there was no water available, and they were literally chewing through irrigation to suck the water, because my vegetable garden is on a hill, so the water would all pool at the bottom in those tubes when it was done running. So because that's so easy to chew through, I started using just the regular rope emitter irrigation, just the little tubing, small tubing with 6 inches every six inches or so. And that works fine. I also have Oyas in all of my raised beds, which are terracotta pots that are buried in the soil, and then you fill them with water and they slowly leak soil out to the, they slowly leak water out to all the soil around it, and they keep it all at an even moist, it's a good level of water in the soil. But you have to fill those, and for me, I have to fill them almost every day. So, that's just something to keep in mind. The nice thing about irrigation is you can generally set it and forget it, unless you have problems like I'm having right now. You have to troubleshoot. It's a lot easier to troubleshoot on a small scale than it is on a much bigger farm scale, but it can be done, and we will figure it out. Okay, it's getting hot, I'm getting hungry, so that's gonna do me for today. Thanks for hanging out with me over the last 2 days while we did a bunch of transplanting. That's it for a day or two. I have a shipment of Alstroemeria coming, and I won't want to put them out here until I get that irrigation problem in the back end fixed, because otherwise they will just die. But I also have mums that are in crates up here that need to go back in the ground, and now that one bed is finished at the far end, I can put them in there, because the other mums are going to be arriving, I think, mid-May, and so we'll want to put those in as well. So I still have another bed to excavate out there and fill it up, and then I think those 2 beds for mums will be good. Those will be perennial. And maybe we'll just make that back end of the farm the perennial part. You know, I can put the Alstroemeria back there, all the daffodils are back there. Maybe that just makes a lot of sense. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.